Hello, welcome to the honest-wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Street Day 189, where I'm joined by Vincey V, Big Vinny V,
Yes.
as some people know him. Vince Venturella, a hero to us all. Hi, Vince. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
As elated as everyone else that you've been on the show. I've really just been treading water for a week, waiting for you to turn up this Friday. Is the truth.
Well, I'm excited. I heard you were interested in some Skaven, and I immediately reached out to you because as soon as you started talking about rats, my ear perked up. The horned rat whispered in my ear and told me that it was time to come back on the show. So there you go.
I mean, how rare is it that both you and I align on an army that we're both excited about at the same time?
Quite rare, mainly because you're usually playing bad armies, is what I would argue.
It's true. I am nothing but contrary. If I get the opportunity to be a bit different, I'll take it. I don't know what to say. It's who and what I am. But before we get on with talking to you, I was going to say hello to everyone in the chat. Mr. Tiga, Rob Kelly, what up? Gitley, hello. Milk, Crazy Horse, I hope you're good. And Gitley, Ziggy, oh, great guys, all in the chat. Thank you to everyone on the honest-wargamer Patreon, and of course, thank you to our podcast bros. It's great having you on the show. Vince, actually, since you were live 2 days ago, there's been some pretty major Age of Sigmar news. But before that, how have you been? I know we can find out every week on Warhammer Weekly, but how have you been these couple of days?
Oh, pretty good, man. I continue to fight my way through these awful Chaos Knights. They are the most beautiful of models that they've made, like in look, but the most impossible I've ever painted in assembly and actual painting. They are the definition of annoying, but that's okay. That's all right. We will dominate the space. The issue is that they are incredibly, like, you have to assemble them completely. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't normally, paint a model like this in one complete assembly, but you have to, because the way you assemble them is like, oh, good, okay, so piece one is a third of a torso and half an arm, and piece two is half of the horse and one leg, and then piece three is like the head and another third of the torso that you have to attach, and then piece four is a third of the cloak and part of the back. And it's just like, there's no physical way you could not do this all as one piece. You'd have these massive gaps everywhere. And then once you put them all together, they have all these jangles and crap all over them, like they're prone to do with chaos models. And then it's like the middle of him is very visible. Like you can see his torso and all that stuff. But look at this, like this stuff here. How do you get a paintbrush in there? Look at this. Look at this. Look at it. Like, what am I doing to paint this? Give me a break.
That's number one. That's how I paint, exactly like what you just did.
I listened to your show yesterday talking about you hobbying and you saying that you were working on a Nurgle army and then they changed over and you were hurt. It hurt you. Mm-hmm. And my advice to you is to get over it. And stop being a wuss. I have 13,000 points of Tomb Kings on squares that are over and are retired. I have a massive Bretonnian army that's dead. Over there and retired.
They're dead.
So
I consider it.
They're in my retired cases.
Yeah,
these are all plenty of. I got plenty of armies, homie. You just keep painting.
I compare it to like, you're in high school, you're about to be in, I'm going to make this all American for you. You're going to be in the American football like team. Yeah. Like you're the star quarterback, you're going into the big leagues, whatever it might be. And then you get that knee injury, you're out. So, you pivot. Now you're a PE teacher at the school, like your life's changed considerably. And that's really where I am with the hobby. Like,
Gotcha. So you're going to be one of those guys talking about his high school glory years and years later. Like, if it wouldn't have hurt my knee, I'd have been in the pros. This entire thing would have been different. I got it. I get it.
I spent a long time once on one model, my Dreadsaurian, which I'm very, very, very chuffed with. But other than that, I generally, as we know. But I am trying a little bit. But I think I'm trying to learn how to paint well but quick. Quick being operative as opposed to well. And I know eventually you can paint really well and quick if you do enough practice, which I'm sure you'd reiterate. And obviously, if anyone for some reason has never heard of Vince, you can watch all of his billions of incredibly positive and upbeat hobby tutorial videos all on YouTube, of which there are dozens, and they're fantastic. But as I said on the show, and you heard me, I'm an incredibly boring person who won't watch those videos and instead will just like complain that I'm not doing well. at the desk. But that's because like I would go to one of your in real life classes or like a Cult of Paint class. Like I would I spoke to Gemma from the Failed Charge when you were over in Australia last year, and she said that like learning from you in in situ was just amazing fun. Amazing fun. Are you upset? Is going to be a long time before we're going to get a Vince V real life class?
Yeah, I miss teaching. It's certainly true. And it's a shame, obviously, no CanCon this year, and it's not that it would have been, unless this had all ended much sooner, it was off the menu anyways. But it's a shame, I'll miss out on that stuff. I like doing that. I love going to conventions. I love hanging out with other people, just talking about this game.
And we are back, and Vince is here to tell us of exactly why he has changed the entire shape and plane of Age of Sigmar.
All right, so I'm not one to normally take credit for things that I'm not sure that we had an effect with, but I am going to say that we had an effect on this one, okay? Because a couple weeks back, a month ago, something like that, I don't know, maybe right after the General's Handbook, whenever this became a discussion of what's legal, okay? I said, look, why don't we do this like Magic the Gathering? If you want to know what's legal in Magic, I can just look up, like, I can Google like pauper legal sets or whatever standard legal sets, and there's literally a little website dedicated to it. Now, my recommendation was that they put it up on the website. I said, what I want to see is a list of every publication, and if there's a subpart out of that that's legal, just boom, 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 boom. Give me a list of everything that's legal, everything I can currently play with, and keep that list active, right? And I literally laid out exactly what they said. Now, they didn't do everything I said. There's two things they didn't do, okay?
What are they?
Because what they did is they published a big list, exactly like I said they should, of everything that's currently basically tournament legal, right? That you don't need to ask permission to play. Great. I was all for it. Fantastic. Beautiful. Well done, Jess. Well done, team. Like, good stuff. I am very happy they did that. There was two things I hoped they would do. One, I think they should move it to the actual site, not bury it in an FAQ. Okay? Like, I don't love that it's buried in an FAQ document, because the problem is a lot of people just don't even read the FAQs or know they exist. All right?
No, they do not. It is a shock to many of them that the FAQs exist.
Absolutely. Just 2 weeks ago, I had a game with a buddy who was playing a Nurgle Demon Prince, and he was like, cool, I'm going to turn on this command ability and do a bunch of mortal wounds back. And I was like, that's not how that works, man. And remember that? Remember how that was printed?
That was great. That was great. I like that rule. Shame it went.
Yeah, and I had to, not really, that was a terrible thing. But anyways, I had to explain to him that, no, that's not how that works. And I had to pull up the FAQ. But I mean, and that's not his fault. He's just not that, he's a casual player, he's not sitting there following the site every day. So put it on the regular website where it'll actually return easily from a Google search. Okay? Like, I think somebody in that building has to know something about search engine optimization, and burying the list of legal publications.
Don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that in any way.
That's fine. Somebody in there has heard of the concept. And burying a bunch of stuff into a PDF, great. I'm glad they did it. Put it somewhere where it's actually findable. It should just be like literally on the site under the FAQs and downloads or something. Like, there should be a sublink under there that's just, here are the page of current tournament legal publications for Warhammer. But at any rate, they did that. The other thing I said is that they should take all publications from the White Dwarf, like all the White Dwarf printed stuff from more than some amount of time ago. I think I had said 6 months, but I would have accepted a year, and just put those up as PDFs that people can download for free. Because I don't love that they asked people to go buy a 17-month-old White Dwarf for full price, right? Just to get your battalions.
But we're not paying for that at all. Like,
I mean, everybody's just going to Google it and just look at the Google image of it. Yes, I agree. But it's still like, they should know that and just be like, look, we've made our money back on this thing. Like, how many more of these are we going to sell? The amount more you're going to sell is not worth it compared to the benefit you can give your people. And moreover, you'll sell more real product through indirect influence revenue than you will through the direct revenue of the download subscriptions.
Yes.
On White Dwarf.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody just didn't do the right cost benefit analysis on a direct versus indirect revenue comparison. Like, this is the kind of stuff I have to do in my day job. And, look, it's not fun. I don't love it, but it's something you can easily do. And if you run that calculation, you'll be like, we sell one army, we'll make more off of making those free. Like, literally, if one person goes out and buys an army, we've made probably more money than we would off of the downloads of this 17-month-old White Dwarf. So.
Yeah, and now you've said it, I wouldn't mind, and Nick has suggested in the chat, I wouldn't mind seeing a microsite maybe for both of the, for all of the game systems effectively, with a this is where we're at sort of a situation. Stuart, thank you for subscribing, by the way. I wouldn't mind seeing something along the lines of game state. This is where we're at, like current publication you need, other publications available, and they can all be linked directly to the store. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I want them to sell more stuff. That's a great opportunity. That's the other thing. If they move it out to the site and not in a freaking PDF, they can actually have hot active web links. So like, here's this product that's current. You can buy this now. Here's the link to buy it. Like, guys, come on. You're literally taking money out of your own pockets by not making a sub-site for it. So, it doesn't make any sense. So they should absolutely. But that being said, so not perfect. I give them a solid B+. Like, if you want to go to A, put it out on its own site and have hot links to the items so people can pick them up. If you want to go to A+, make everything more than a year, and if it was published in White Dwarf, just free as PDFs. So make the hot link go just to a free download. Like, host the PDF somewhere. Easy. There you go.
It's with thanks to people like Dan Shorts, obviously, who like curates the actual FAQs and puts them into a searchable singular PDF. There's a long way to go. Let's just put it that way. And their digital team is very much at least at the standard of their publications team. So make of that criticism what you will. So they're not going far or quickly is the point, but maybe they'll eventually get there. You would hope at some point. Vince, I didn't get the opportunity to hear so far. How did you feel? Sorry, we won't jump ahead because actually there's some stuff to unpack. This does mean Selesky's host is still available now. Again, that's legal, which is cool for those Slanesh players.
Finally clarified on the Fire Slayer thing that everybody's wanted to play and most TOs have allowed anyways, so that's still around, and I'm sure the Fire Slayer players are happy. All 7 of them. So that's a great day for them.
They're happy, yeah.
But so on. And it makes you know that things like the Jaws of Mork will be legal longer. And that's great. These things shouldn't have a 1-year legality time frame. They should be around longer than that. So
well, it feels very much like something like the Jaws of Mork, especially the Jaws of Mork, are what we used to get in the GHBs, where we would get kind of updated faction abilities or allegiance abilities just contained inside the GHB, which were, most people's battle tomes for several years. So I think that's great, especially that kind of uptick. It doesn't make Squigs any, it makes them better, but not good. So it's fine. It's a good inclusion. I think the scary thing for me always is that sometimes the White Dwarf stuff seems a little bit hit and missy. But as long as it's being done by the rules team, you at least know they've intended to create it, like it wasn't done by someone else. The terrain rules are sometimes done by someone else. I think that's swapped over as well now, so that's good. And I'm happy about it. With you, I'm just happy for the clarity. All I ever want is consistent clarity from Games Workshop. As to the decision, that's up in the air. But as to the clarity, I'm 11 out of 10. So they get an A star from me because they just were upfront about something, which is great and unprompted. It doesn't look like they're trying to sell me a book. It doesn't seem like there's. It seems just like a quality of life update for no gain. Obviously, trying to sell us a White Dwarf that we don't care about, but that's good as well. That they occasionally look at the other game that they make and go, "Ah, here's something we can fix." But if it was done by you, congratulations, super happy, thanks.
Yeah, we were very vocal about this over multiple shows. So I seems like somebody was listening, and I'm glad for it, and I'm glad that they did it. It's a wonderful thing. Can still have some improvements, but that's okay. That's just inspecting and adapting. We can always take another step toward improvement in our hobby, in our website creation, and everything. That's just life. We can always be improving as we reach for the Brahma, right? So there you go.
Always, as we move towards grace and practice our Bushido ways. Exactly.
There you
go. So let's talk about something you and I are both excited about, which is Skaven.
Yeah, man.
Have you been a long time Skaven fan?
That's a very funny question you've just asked. I've played Skaven since 1998, Rob. So yeah, a little bit. Okay, 22 years into the army.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw I shared a picture of, obviously I just rebased my whole Skaven army onto rounds. I actually still have a few outstanding weird pieces because I miscounted on my 25 mils. I thought 225 of them was the correct number, but then I accidentally rebased all my clan rats when I didn't need to, because I have like 150 clan rats that used to be slaves, right? 3 blocks of 50 from previous edition. But 150 is a nonsensical number now, right? It'd be 140.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking, and I just was like happily rebasing and just going along. And then hence I'm now short, so I didn't rebase my plague monks. My plague monks that I have are the first unit I ever painted, like the first full unit I ever got painted. You understand what I mean? Like I painted individual figures, but this is the first time I ever finished a unit of guys. Was my plague monks back in '98. And so I still have them, and they're still the original paint job, and I refuse to get rid of them or repaint them because they're a living memory of what I painted like then. And yeah, so I mean, I have about 10,000. I have 10,000. I have 10,060 points of Skaven. I know exactly how much Skaven I have, as a matter of fact.
Wow, plenty. Can I ask, like, at 1998, what was it that, like, do you remember exactly what caught your attention?
Oh God, yes. So I had played a little Empire at the time. Like I got into Warhammer playing Empire, and and it was fine. Most of my Empire was stuff that had been donated to me, or like old Battle Masters Knights, or just stuff like that, like really really low quality, just bad things. I think the only thing I went out and bought was I bought myself the War Altar, the one that had the Volkmar and his War Altar.
Love that model.
Yeah, sure.
Who doesn't love just a cart? What you riding to war in? What? Yeah, just a cart.
It didn't even have walls. It was literally just a flat, like it's designed that would just pass zero muster today. Yes. So I think that was the only thing I actually bought, because I mean I was a poor college student or whatever, and as opposed to a poor adult. So, but at any rate, I walked in the store one day and saw Skaven, and I was like, oh my God, these are the coolest things ever. I looked at, like, I was in love with them immediately. They're weird, like the rats and the ninjas, the fact that they had like ninjas, I was like, this is the coolest thing. Then I read about all the clans, and I was like, I must own this army. And my first army that I got, I went on eBay and found somebody selling off like their whole massive collection of old metal Skaven for about 200 bones. And I was like, this is a worthwhile investment. I don't know how much money that would be today. Let's see. Let's find out. Let's find out exactly how much money I spent today, accounting for inflation. 200 USD in today's dollars. I need an inflation calculator. I'll figure it out. Anyways, so I got that whole army, started painting it. And yeah, for a long time, it was like, that was kind of my army. And I've gone back and forth on them, how much I exactly played them. They haven't always been the only army I played, obviously. Eventually I came to, so it was $318.63 in today's money. Still a great deal for like,
still a great deal.
It was a huge army, at the time. Anyway, so I found Slaanesh, my second love, my nighttime lover there, Slaanesh. But other than that, it's the Skaven have always had a special place in my heart. So yeah.
Okay. Well, Sircon, thanks for subscribing. Big love to you. My question to you then is: so you've obviously been rebasing or in the process of rebasing the Skaven, but the book came out last year. You would have thought people like you and I would have jumped on the book at release. Is there a reason that you didn't? I know my reason, but is there a reason you didn't like jump at the book, or knowing the book was coming out kind of prepped the army that you wanted to play?
Because it was right around the same time as Slaanesh, and I was much more keen for the new sculpts and everything for Slaanesh, and I was much more living in that headspace at the time. I mean, that's the long and short of it. I liked the Skaven book, and I did play some games with it, but they were really just, I mean, it's not a tournament army for me, and it never will be, because it's not painted to the level that I'm willing to take to a tournament. And so whereas the Slanesh army was a great hobby project, right? A chance to really take things up to just an ultra high level. So that was the main reason. But they had always been there, and I'd always been like, I've been playing basement games with them on and off for a whole year.
Okay.
The original book the stuff was obviously bent because things were way too cheap, you know. And it's still a pretty sour book for internal balance. You know, it went through this cycle like a lot of powerful books have, where all we did was knock down the good stuff, but we didn't, or sorry, you know what I'm saying, right? Like by increasing the points of the good stuff, but we didn't lift up, hence lower the points of the bad stuff, right? And some of that can't be done with points. There's just flat war scroll changes that need to be in there. Every Eshin war scroll is an abomination and should be stricken from history. Like, you've got the coolest concept in the history of Warhammer in ninja rats, like rats running around in ninja costumes, throwing stars at people, and just like, and those are the war scrolls you gave them. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed.
Well, the Deceiver was always a key piece for many competitive lists, like leading up to this year. But
other than the Deceiver.
Yeah, the Deceiver, excellent. And I have been writing a few lists because that pre-game move that you get from Night Runners is like, I mean, they're expensive, but it's like, it's a key piece if you feel like you need to screen out from potentially some alpha in. But I know that you have been doing it in a different way, because there's kind of two ways to deal with the alpha. You can screen out, or you can leave stuff off the board. And I know that I feel like that's something that you're going to talk about in a minute.
It is, my friend.
It is. My reason not for playing Skaven, though, and why I'm excited about them right now, is that it was just super strong at release, like to the nth degree, where I felt, and it was, you know, why would you take Storm Vermin, which I've been writing into lists now, which are okay. Storm Vermin are now okay.
I love me some Storm Vermin.
Yeah, but why would you ever put them into a list when you had Plague Monks at that point? Like, it was... You were just hampering yourself, and in a mirror, you're just losing. I mean, even now, Plague Monks are still very, very good. But it was just super strong, and that negative play experience where you just had to vortex something was just.
I've never used the vortex. I've always hated it. The wrong things in the book. The book was just way out of whack when it came out, and we finally got into a pretty good place, where I feel like we're making, like, the right things are balanced at the right points. I still think we need to rewrite some war scrolls, but like, for the most part, the book is in a much better place now. Like, we've lowered some points, we've upped the points where they should be, and I feel like, yeah, okay, this is a versatile, competitive, and interesting army that is not overpowered. It's right where it should be. And honestly, I think Skaven now is one of the, like, it's one of those sweet spot books where it just has a lot of different ways it can play. It can adjust to the meta in a very versatile way, and is an overall solid book full of cool units. Not to say there aren't trash units.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's arguably, other than Seraphon, it's one of the most adaptable books still to this point. Like, and it's got some good strengths, but most of it, I would say, doesn't feel like you're playing a different game where the other player isn't playing. It's very interactive as well. And I went to an event last year with Skaven, and I took away Best Sports, which was super fun. And, like, you know, I was doing Mortal Wounds for days and having a great time, and I had some Storm Fiends. So even, I mean, it wasn't optimal Storm Fiends either. It was like some of them had combat, but it's a super, super fun book that I think opponents enjoy playing as well, which is sometimes a key factor, like, depending on how you want to approach your games. Really fun for playing with your mates.
Sure, because there's nothing more fun than when you juice a rattling gun up, right? And, you know, you overcharge it and you spark it and you're getting all these 2 damage shots, and then you roll for the shots and you roll the double, and it's like, and you tell your opponent, like, okay, I'm going to shoot you once here and it's probably going to hurt a lot, right? But then it dies, right? Then the model explodes and kills itself, and they're like, okay, that seems fair, right? People kind of have this built-in sense of, like, yeah, that's cool. When you're taking your own models off, like when you melt one of your own warp lightning cannons or something, they're like, all right, that's cool, you know. I'm doing that's fine.
When you give your opponent your Doom Wheel to move, they're the happiest they've ever been.
I've never used that ability ever and never will. Why would you? That is the worst. So what I love about the new Skaven, so one of the things that always attracted me to Skaven was the whole, like, they have crazy technology that can backfire. Mm-hmm. I love backfire stuff like that, like the high risk, high reward stuff.
Yeah.
And most of them, I think they nailed perfectly in this edition, where it's like, you can choose to do this thing, right? And it will make the thing patently better, right? Like the rattling gun will fire double its normal number of shots. Fantastic, right? Or whatever. You know, your warp fire throwers will melt way more people. Yeah, because you can roll more. You can roll 2 dice, whatever you want to pick. You know, and your Grey Seer eating their rock, right? Okay, all these things are right on the line, and then you get to the Doom Wheel, and like the shots thing, the shots bonus is perfect. It's right on. It's exactly where you'd want it to be. The movement thing for the Doom Wheel, I've never used once, because your chance of rolling a 1 on 4 die is statistically massive, and like. I would never, ever, ever use that. Just like, nope, this is not getting used. Sorry, I move my Doom Wheel, not you. I'll take a bad roll once in a while.
Yeah, I only used it the one time, and I did roll the 1.
Of course.
But my opponent was...
Because it's like a 40% chance, Rob. It's crazy.
Yeah, but 60% of the time it works every time. And that's really important to me. Okay, so let's talk about what you've been playing with. Like, so obviously you've probably got everything, or most of everything. So, but what is it that you've been like mechanically attracted to in the game to play with? What have you enjoyed rolling out with?
Yeah, so there's a couple that I've been playing with recently. Like one of the things you've talked about a lot that I disagree with heartily. Okay,
good. That's new for you.
Indeed, you and I are so normally simpatico. One of the things you've been talking about is the 320s, right? Yeah. You've been talking about the 320s of clanners. I'm not about that life. It's actually quite rare that my list contains 320s of clan rats. Almost never. Because that's a waste of what can be an actually good anvil, okay? For almost no additional points. 40 clan rats for 200 points is one of the best deals going, okay? These are a bunch of morons who are going to have a 5-up save for most of their life. When you push them up to 40, they get +1 to hit and wound. So you have crappy rats, but they are attacking on 3s and 3s if you give them swords, or 4s and 3s if you give them the reach weapon. Okay, and like most of the time, those 40 bodies are battle shock immune, right? Through one of a various and sundry methods, and like 40 wounds is just a lot of wounds. So one of my favorite lists that I've been playing with recently is just the flood the board strategy. So 40 clanners, 40 clanners, 40 storm vermin. That's 800 points base, right? Then you're going to take your claw lord at 100, who's going to have verminous valor for free because he gets an extra command trait. That's 900. Then you're going to take the battalion that wraps all that up, okay, which is 180. So you're at 1,080 points, about half your list, right? But that pack is 125 wounds on relatively decent saves, fills all your battle line, and is probably mostly immune to battle shock. And the storm vermin, 40 storm vermin now at 400 points are like, they're almost perfect. They should probably get a horde discount to move to like 370 or 380, like a tiny little horde discount. But even at 400, I'm a buyer, okay? And they'll do work. Like they'll chop through an enemy army if they get the right bonus. And all you do is have the claw lord, make sure he's always near them. He'll buff when he throws up his +1 attack thing, and that goes on them. And they go to like 3s and 2s, and then you spark a command point to let them reroll 1s to hit and +1 attack. Like that's where you need to be spending your command points. These guys are making 3 attacks apiece with a 2-inch reach on a 25 mil base. Like most of that unit's gonna fight, and there are 3s, 2s, neg 1 damage. They will blow through an enemy army. Okay.
Yeah. So first thing I did when I looked at the book, like seriously, having redone stuff, was obviously that battalion. So your three lots of clan rats in your storm vermin, and that's what I first built. I think for you, also big shout out to Doggo popping in, because
this is my dog who sits in my chair. Yes,
very very happy about that. That was brilliant. I think for you, it's a different kettle of fish to other people, because for me, I was starting at the bottom, staring down the gun of at least 60 clan rats, maybe 80 clan rats to paint. You're like, I've got too many. Like, right. So
exactly.
Mine was I need to get 60 done base. But I agree with you, and I think there's arguments, really good arguments, for adding more into those clan rats as well. Maybe you lose the toys, but that's a lot of wounds that are running around, controlling board space and blocking stuff up. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I don't disagree with that. But I did look at it, and so the first list I ever wrote was a 3-drop. So I wrote the 180 Claw Lord like battalion, and I also ran one with an Arch Warlock and some Doom Wheels, which was and I think some Storm Fiends in there as well. So it was a fun. And then I can't remember what I added in. Either it was another Arch Warlock or a Vermin Lord. I'd have to go back and check. And I was like, 3 drops, pretty sweet. 3 drops, pretty sweet. But you don't.
It's rare you get low drops.
Yeah, very rare, very rare. Double battalion as well, so you're starting on CP, which is excellent. So even if you're playing Lumineth, the Inspiring Presence is available. Some solid choices. You generally don't see that, but as time's gone on, I've kind of looked at it and thought, you know what? I kind of want the Claw Lord and the battalion points, which is 260 points back. I'd rather have another Doom Wheel, or I'd rather have a unit of Eshin or something. It's a lot of points for no real bonus other than the drop. So I guess I'm going to play some games to see what the drop gives me, the low drop point. And then if not, I'm just going to want the extra toys. Because unlike some other armies, there's no end game regeneration. I'm not going to be summoning anything. I'm not going to be putting anything on the board. So actually, as much as we start with a lot of infantry and we start with a lot of bodies and a lot of wounds, like that's going to... And it goes away quick enough that I think it could be an issue. And I think having a big survivable character is also fairly important at the moment because there's a lot of shooting.
So the thing I always pair that with, I don't disagree, but the thing I pair that... So when I run that version of the army, it's paired with the 2 towers. So I always have two Doom... oh my God.
Screaming Bells.
Thank you. Yes, my brain is... It's too early in the morning, man. I apologize. I always have 2 Screaming Bells. So that way I have these massive bubbles of battle shock immunity. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's 26 inches in diameter. Each one is broadcasting out, so it becomes very easy. That gives me 2 rings of the bell. You know, you roll a turn where you get double apocalyptic doom, which is not that unusual. That's rolling an 8 or a 9 on the bell, right?
Mm-hmm. And
where you're dealing D3 mortal wounds to every enemy unit within 26 inches of both bells, right, on a 4-up.
It's pretty obnoxious.
It's pretty fantastic. And also, the Screaming Bell is actually just a very survivable big hero because it's on a 4-up. It's always surrounded by a ton of bodies. It benefits from Lookout, sir. Okay?
Yep.
Both in shooting and melee because of the Skaven ability. So just that thing has a flat neg 1 to be hit in melee, right? And it can scurry away just like anything else as long as there's clan rats near it to allow it to move, right? And what I've generally found is that, again, sure, you might say, well, Vince, that's another 480 points. And, I don't disagree. So, now you're up to like 1560. But that's an unbelievably solid core of an army, right? And with your other 440 points or whatever, then I get a couple toys in there. This is like my flood the board army, right? Mm-hmm. It's just one build. And the strat there is like, I'm going to spread out. And what I generally will buy with the remaining points is like some kind of other hammers, or like weapon teams and a hammer or something to float around and cause trouble. I don't disagree with you on the usefulness of a unit of Night Runners just to be your like out in front of your clan rats that they just pregame move and you string them way out and they can actually just be way in the way of a lot of alpha striking or deep striking nonsense. It's just more board control, right?
Yeah,
and even one unit of them for 80 points does a lot of work, frankly.
Yeah, I'm big into that board control, and it was when I read that on the Night Runner scroll, I was like, excellent. But of course, we need to talk about my deep love, because every list I write, every single list I write has at least 1 Doom Wheel.
Sure, no disagreement here. I've got 4 Doom Wheels, and I love them to death. They're fantastic.
And the Go Faster Juice artifact. That's it. Like, I start with that. They're just taken out of... There's no way... Because I actually think, like, having used it a few times, and especially now, I think it's a super solid meta pick. There's a lot of infantry, and it can do multiple D3s. Multiple D3 mortal wounds on units it hits, which is not inconsiderable. Can go super fast, pseudo fly, and it's sensationally unique in the game.
Also has a quite decent shooting attack. Let's not underestimate that, right? Mm-hmm. Like that shooting attack can go the distance. It can put some damage into people, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you put the buff on it. And a couple of them cruising around just firing off lightning Yeah, it'll do the work. I mean, it's not its old shooting attack. If you remember back in the old days when you would fire off the random strength whenever you got like the 3 strength 10 shots out of the thing, and it could like fire through buildings. Terrain didn't matter. Line of sight didn't block it. So it's not as deadly as it used to be. But still good. Like, I mean, yes, there was a game. Oh, what was I doing? Like 2 weeks ago, I was rolling that Doom wheel around, and there was like a Chaos Lord who was buffing a unit of Marauders and making them a problem. And I was just like, nope, zrap, and just one shot at him with the Doom wheel, you know? So like that's what you can get to. Yeah. And I agree. Like Doom wheels are incredibly versatile. They can block people up. They're a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece. So yes, they often at least one usually finds its way into my list. Usually.
Yeah. It's my anti-Lumineth tech. It's straight into as many Lumineth units as I can hit, cause some D3 mortal wounds, shoot off the Calathar. That's its one job.
Yep.
It'll either do that job or it won't do that job. Because interestingly, and we get to move on now to no boarding or keeping stuff off the board. Yeah. Like interestingly, like the reach potential that you get on Skaven is sometimes weaker than you would get in other armies. Now, of course, you've got things like the bridge. You can do some really long range shooting from wind launchers on top of the Storm Fiends. So you've got there are definitely, when I say that there isn't first turn threat on the Skaven, there definitely is, but it's unique and in certain places. However, being able to null deploy and keep stuff off the board is a quintessential part of the list, which we've not often seen. Normally you saw the bridge, so because that happens in the hero phase, so you could buff additionally. But you've been doing a lot of null deploy, haven't you, with Warp Grinders?
Yes. Well, it's not just the Warp Grinder. Okay, so I've trotted this list out in a couple different versions. I don't have it to where I love it yet, Rob. Okay. Like it's still a work in progress.
That's fine.
All right. Mm-hmm. But there's potential here. Okay. There's potential here. So let me explain the basic list that I built. I'll explain the version of it I built last week. Okay. And this was my second shot at this. And it's still, like I said, still being refined. That's list building, right? You get an idea, you try it once, you see what doesn't work, then you keep going, right? You keep going. So here's what I ended up doing. Okay. So here's our heroes. Ready? We've got the Vermin Lord Deceiver. Now he's going to start on the board. Mm-hmm. But he could be backboarded in the backest of back corner, and who cares, right? Because he's got dreaded skitter leap. He has best teleport, right? Because he can put himself 6 inches away from enemies. So fantastic. That guy can just go as far away from any threat. He can be buried behind your whole army. He can be in the farthest corner from the enemy in some of these deployments and be completely safe, right? No issue. Yep. And he can dig himself out, no problem. Okay, so now we've got a Grey Seer on foot. And he's got Skitter Leap as his spell. Okay, so he can shoot himself or the Claw Lord around. And I also gave him he's also got the Snout Grovel Robes, sorry. The things that it's the little Battle Shock immunity, 13-inch range that broadcasts around him. So even if he's not on the bell, he can make people Battle Shock immune. Okay?
Yep.
And he's the general, and he has Master of Magic, because Master of Magic is still one of the best command traits ever. So, getting bonuses to cast.
Yeah, +1 to cast.
That's right. It's only on one caster unbind per turn, but you can decide to use it after you roll.
Yeah.
Right? So you only use it when you know you need it. So there you go. Then there is a Claw Horde in here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I still use the Claw Horde in here, but my Claw Horde this time is the Claw Lord, 20 rats, and 40 Storm Vermin. So we saved 160 points off by shaving down the rats, because I didn't want big packs of rats, right?
Okay.
Now, then there's a Warp Grinder. The Warp Grinder is going to pair with the Storm Vermin. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the Storm Vermin and the Warp Grinder are starting off board, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like this huge threat. Because that thing, like, what can happen is I can decide to come up with the Warp Grinder. Worst case, I lose a couple rats on the Warp Grinder, come up right over there. But then I Skitter Leap the Claw Lord from the Grey Seer over to join that group. You with me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the Grey Seer's like, you go over there wherever I needed you to be. Okay, so then we've got a Deathmaster who null deploys. That's right.
Nice. Okay.
Because he's hidden in some other unit, right? We've got a Warp Gnaw Vermin Lord who null deploys. He's off. He ambushes. I think a lot of people turned against that guy when he lost the ability to be a guide, where he could, because he used to be able to take a unit as well. Right?
I'm currently painting one right now.
Yeah, I heard. He's great. That dude has a 5 damage halberd. Let's not underestimate that guy, okay?
Yeah, baby.
So
yeah, baby.
He can get in there and do the work. And plus, he's actually kind of cheap now by Vermin Lord standards. He's only like 270 points. Compared to most of the other Vermin Lords who have moved up to their proper point level. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's what I always thought. So, Corruptor and Croak, basically the same.
Sure. Basically the same. No doubt about it. We are in that one thing we are simpatico on is that stupid dead frog is horrendously underpriced and it's still one of the biggest atrocities. Okay.
I'm pro the frog. So, I need you to know that. So pro the frog. Like
I am.
He's my boy. Anti. He's my number one narrative choice in Age of Sigmar. He's just 11 out of 10. I mean, brilliant. But please continue.
No, you're fine. So, and then you've got, the Warp Gnaw's off board, the Deathmaster's off board, the Deceiver's backboarded, the Storm Vermin and the Grinder are off board, and then you've got 10 Gutter Runners who are also off board, right? Because they can ambush in on their own. Okay?
Yes.
And so what's actually on the board when you set up is your 2 units of Clan Rats with your Grey Seer, in the middle, anchoring them and making them Battle Shock immune, right?
Yeah.
And you basically backboard with them, and you place your gnaw holes such that you've got one threatening behind the enemy directly. So they have to commit troops to sit there and guard it so you can't teleport to it, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got one that you put kind of outside of their zone where they could easily cover. So either they have to make a choice to send some models over to it to guard it as well, or you're just going to, at one turn, take 20 of your Clan Rats and throw them over there to be an interesting threat. Okay, yes. Somewhere else on the board. Because you can just reposition the entire army very fast. Like the game I played with this last week, I started with the 2 Clan Rats, the Claw Lord, the Grey Seer on the board, and the Deceiver, right?
Yeah.
And I was playing against a Tzeentch list that had like some Flamers and Archeon and whatever, just a bunch of stuff. And he tried to spread out with like his Screamers and his Flamers and like take control of the board, and he just couldn't get enough control, right? He just couldn't get enough bodies to actually stop me. Like he came into me with Archeon by coming all the way over to me first turn, and he like blew up 20 Clan Rats I had as a screen, and I was like, that's fine. I don't care. That was, who cares?
That's what they're there for.
Right. And then on that turn, because I gave him first turn, he brought over Archeon, and he like drilled Archeon as deep as he could get into my area, right? So then on my turn, the Deceiver teleported out and was behind him. The Clan Rats teleported to the other null hole because he couldn't get far enough over to cover it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like the remaining 20. And the Grey Seer skitter leaped himself out of there. So all that was left, standing there alone on my one objective I had, was the Claw Lord, who then like moved all the way back to be at the farthest point away on the 6-inch line from the objective.
Yep.
And I was like, go ahead, and I still held this point. And I was like, if you want to take this from me, you've got to dedicate your 800-point hero, right, for a turn to flying over here and killing my 100-point Claw Lord. Because otherwise, I'm just going to hold this point. And we were playing, oh God, I can't remember the name of the scenario now, but I don't remember which one it was. But it's the one where leaders give you an extra point. Total conquest? No, not commitment.
Total conquest with the odd deployment.
Yes, with the odd deployment, which was great for this army because you're sort of corner to corner deployment, but not on the diagonal, whatever. Yeah. Anyways, so all of a sudden, and then like my Gutter Runners popped up over on his side behind him. My Warp Gnaw popped up in the middle of his army because he had accidentally left a 120 mil hole as he had like spread out, right, and tried to 9-inch everything. I was like watching him do it, and I didn't say anything, and then I measured, and I realized he had left almost exactly the 120 mil chariot base hole in the middle of the orbit of his army. So that dude was just like, whoop, popped up right there in the middle. And suddenly my entire army was no longer, I had left my deployment zone. Like my deployment zone was abandoned other than the Claw Lord, and now I was surrounding him, right?
Yes.
Like he had tried to move out, and then up came the Storm Vermin on one side, and like I actually held them for a turn. Didn't pop them up right away. I held them until turn 3 because I knew I could clear out, because he was holding with a bunch of weak stuff, right?
Yes.
So I could just remove all the things that he was holding with that wasn't pinks, basically, right? Because I didn't want to start making blues and things, because 10 pinks can't hold as much board space as all the blues that will gen. Yeah. So I just killed everything else, all of his other board control, and then brought up the Storm Vermin, who immediately charged into his pinks and just blew up a whole unit in one turn, right? Because they're more than capable of dealing 50 wounds in a turn.
They're very good.
So,
especially with the Claw Lord.
Yes, because the Claw Lord at that he made the right choice, which was don't kill the Claw Lord with Archaon, right? It's an overcommitment, and he tried to bring the Archaon back, but then couldn't get into anything with Archaon's charge because he wasn't like, if you don't play Archaon all the time, you have to know how to manipulate his giant pie plate base.
Yeah,
and because he had spread out to control the whole board, he had effectively blocked himself up from, and I used his own troops to screen my troops against Archaon, right? Like there was no way he could get at me because there were multiple rows of his troops stopping Archaon from getting at me. And so Archaon was basically neutered for that whole turn and couldn't do anything. And my Clawlord then eventually just jumped back in the gnaw hole and joined the rest of the Storm Vermin and was like, okay. And I just had the Deathmaster pop up. Oh, other thing, I gave the Deathmaster the Far Skitter Cloak. Far Skitter Cloak is an underestimated thing. It's in the Eshin artifacts, and it lets you once a game teleport. Just be 9 inches away, right? Sounds stupid. Absolute game changer for me, especially in a scenario where leaders give you extra points. And you get extra points for taking points away from people, right? Because almost every turn since my whole army was teleporting, I was getting 3 points on every point. Because he would take a point or hold a point or something, and I would teleport over there with a leader, kill whatever he had on it, and then I would own it, take it with a leader, and take it from him. So I had 3 point to his, 1 or 2, right?
So big swings.
And yeah, big swings. And this army you can just reposition the whole army all over the place, right? Because you can be dreaded skitter leaping, you can be the fact that the stupid Deathmaster can teleport. I wish that guy actually lived up to his name. He is underwhelming as a hero. The assassin needs to be better. He makes me very sad.
He is not a good assassin, but they've only just started to really understand cavalry, so we'll give them some chances, to do better. Yep.
But the fact that he had that built-in once a game teleport meant I knew he could get away, right? That because eventually I had my clan rats that had teleported turn 1 holding sort of a point, and the Deathmaster was in them, so he popped out and he was the leader holding that point with them, and I was scoring all these points on it, right? And then when he brought Archaon over to kill those clan rats, he pushes Archaon into me, but he has multiple fights going on with my leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he wants to get rid of my leaders, but the problem is he's like, okay, I'm not going to fight with Archaon first, because that's the smart tactical choice, right? Yeah. He knows Archaon is going to kill through 20 clan rats. That's not a question. And there's other fights where he needs to be attacking first, or I'm going to deplete his units. Okay? So what that meant is that the Deathmaster, then when it was my turn to activate, I just went boop, 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 and just scurried away. And then he, next turn, teleports over and takes another point. And it's like, ta-da! You didn't kill me in time. Scurry away is the most powerful ability in the Skaven book.
Really strong. Really strong. Yeah. So just for you guys at home so they effectively have the old skink rule. So the heroes can run away from combat when they activate as opposed to be in combat, which is huge because it really defines that's a fun mechanic for combat. Not always strikes first, always strikes last. That's a fun one. That's interactive because you're making choices on your charges.
Because it's still back and forth, right? So it's perfectly interactive. It's one of the best mechanics they've done because you still are by me scurrying away, I'm not fighting with the unit, right? So we're still making real choices here. We're playing the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Really good. Really good rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. And works really well on things like the Deceiver, and other stuff where actively what you're trying to do is move around the board more. And it's interesting, obviously one of those things that you're attracted to with the Skaven book is all those teleports, which, as we've seen with Seraphon, there's an entire sub-faction that allows you to reduce your damage by 1. And you still don't choose that. You actually choose the teleport version. That's how strong teleports are. Those are your two choices, and most players choose to teleport rather than reduce all incoming damage by 1, which is significant, right?
It's a significant thing. I will say my Seraphon army that I play with, I only play Coalesce because I built a massive Saurus army and I have a deep love of Saurus. So I run a fair Seraphon list, usually Thunder Lizard, usually running with Skink Chiefs on Stegodons, leading a bunch of Saurus and that Skink Chief on Steggy, I'll get him up to like 5, 6, 7 attacks with all his things, and I'll go blow up units. I was very proud of him. He killed almost an entire unit of Phoenix Guard. I had him so buffed up one time, so I felt pretty good about that. He brought down like 30 Phoenix Guard in a turn. That's a real accomplishment.
So that does sound fair. You're right, Vince. That sounds very fair.
Mm-hmm. I feel good about it. I had to invest my entire army into super buffing him. I'm not gonna look. Seraphon, that part, I had no frogs. I had 0 Salon in that list, no Croak, and I had 3 Salamanders. That's a fair list. Okay. If I'm relying on all Saurus and Stegodons, I'm playing fair Seraphon. You hush up. That's my answer. Whenever I play that. But that is a very fair list. It's just
I'll
monsters
tell Nathan
do a
that.
lot of damage.
I'll tell Nathan that. See what he says. He often just you can't see this right now, but he just double clenches his fists like a toddler whenever I mention the word Seraphon.
I get it. Oh, I should also mention I only had 20 skinks in that list, like 2 tenors of skinks. That's it, right? So I mean, it is the fairest version of the army. I get his double fist clench when I see those teleporting Starborn, blah blah blah, Croak and Skink Clouds lists. They make me want to bang my head against the desk. But anyways, we're not talking about stupid lizards. We're talking about the great enemy of the lizards, the Skaven.
They are the great enemy.
Yeah, their god ate our god at one point in time, but he got better, so that's okay.
Stronger. That's the thing. That's the thing I think I like most about the Skaven book as well. Is there's a lot of character, flavor, and narrative behind that Skaven book. And also, so this is the thing that I'd like to ask you as a consummate hobbyist is that. Unfortunately, other than our brand new mad rat scientist with a rocket, all of the sculpts are fairly old sculpts. I know Stormfiends came out and the Vermin Lords came out, and I am as you know, I'm not like a huge painter, but I loved painting the Vermin Lords, of which I've painted 3 now over my time. I think they're phenomenal models. I think they're really, really fun and really, really exciting. But I have also got some Night Runners in front of me, and they're disgusting. Like they're just hot trash. Is all. Are
you using the real Night Runner models, like the actual?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, you need to throw those in the trash. Those are incorrect. If you're going to make Night Runners, you need to either do what I did, which is you take the clan rats, you pick out the clan rats from like the Island of Blood set or whatever that had like the hoods on, and then you just do green stuff cloaks. That's how I did some of my Night Runners. Or you go get the Blood Bowl Skaven team. Like that's the right answer. The Blood Bowl Skaven team looks like Night Runners. So
there
other
are
than
also,
like 2 heavily armed linemen or whatever.
There are also some excellent third-party Skaven sculpts, which are available. But I have a bunch of Skaven, which is stuff that like I've traded for over the years, and it's kind of been like I'm going to play Skaven one day, and I've just been slowly adding stuff into this kind of like pot of things, and I it seems have some Night Runners as well, which is really fun, and obviously Acolytes. I have 5 again, not bought by me, but just in my kind of like pot. I have like 5 Acolytes and talking about Jezzails, but they're all pretty woeful models, or they're dated. More importantly, is to be fair. Sure. And I guess my question to you is, because I know this is something that'll fire up your hobby juices. When you see it re-envisioned, how would you like to see the Skaven re-envisioned? Like normally the stuff we've seen has been generally tied to a realm. Like in Age of Sigmar, but sometimes not. Would you like to see each of the clans from a different realm, or would you like to see it have its own flavor?
So I'll say, I mean, the things that I think hold up are certainly the Stormfiends, although I hate the Brain Rats. I never put the Brain Rats on the back of them. My Stormfiends are all just armored, and they don't have the Brain Rats on the back. But I think those hold up. I agree with you on the Vermin Lords. I think that the basic Clan Rat and the Storm Vermin hold up really well. I think those are still solid sculpts. I think they're beautiful sculpts. I don't think you really need to change those. I think the core of the army is actually quite strong. As far as the Acolytes go, I just took all my old Poison Wind Warders. So here's a fun story. During the great collapse of 2015, 2016, people were selling off things cheap, and there was somebody on eBay selling Islands of Blood, the pieces from the Island of Blood for auction starting at $1. So I was buying Poison Wind Mortars for $1 a piece. Each one of those is 2 Acolytes, baby. The guy with the launcher and the guy holding the globe, cut those in half, boom, 2 Acolytes. That's 50 cents an acolyte. That is
That's
savings.
Cheap.
Yeah. So I've got all the acolytes I want. What needs to be redone? I mean, you mentioned it. They need to bring back out the plastic rat ogres from that set. By the by, like that's really annoying. The rat. I have every rat ogre from the original ones and the original Thankful and Bone Ripper, all the way forward to the Island of Blood plastics and stuff. But the Eshin is what needs it. What I would want to see is maybe in one of these Broken Realms books, because who knows what that's gonna do. Mm-hmm. Who knows, right? It could be if it looks like some kind of psychic awakening thing, which is what we're all assuming, of course. Mm-hmm. They could choose to do anything else they want with these armies. Like they could go in and rewrite war scrolls, they could add new rules, they could do whatever. They could also release models at the same time. Now, my understanding with Psychic Awakening is for the most part they just released like single character models or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have to limit themselves to that. They could do whatever they wanted, right? They could have relaunches of the line. What I want to see more than anything is an Eshin build out. I don't care if that's they get their own book. I don't care if that's they put that into Broken Realms and we get a redesign of that. How is Ninja Gaiden Rats not the coolest thing you've ever designed, sculptors? Like, I would love to see like Seb or somebody like that go nuts on that concept now. And I think you could just do amazing things of having them. Think of the dynamism they could pose into them now, of them like jumping from things and throwing stars and just being like like they did with the Kurnothi warband, or the various things we've seen are like the
they're the warbands for Warcry specifically. The new Shadow Elves. Look.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah. The new Shadow Elves. Like, yes. I mean, that's just so obvious. They could make it so cool, right? That would be my number one thing I would want. I would go insane. I would love it, because I've always wanted to run like a full Eshin army, but you can't do it right now. You cannot. So if they resculpted that line and maybe added to it like some other unit to it, because it needs another unit. It's one of the thinnest parts of the clans. That would be my ideal world. I mean, 100% that would be my ideal world. Yeah, Scryer's in a pretty good place. Like the Arch Warlock is still one of the best figs of all time. The old Ikit Claw model is still one of the best figs of all time.
But could do with a plastic update. I do feel
sure.
that. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I'm like, yes, I don't disagree. That being said, if you want to make your own Arch Warlocks on the cheap, you'll know these guys well. The Adeptus Mechanicus,
Archmagos.
What are they? The little metal. They're like little Sicarius dudes or something, I guess is their name. I don't know. They're like little. They have like little metal breastplates and long little cybernetic legs, and they have like little sword arms that are attached to them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not
like
the
they have
the.
I guess I don't know.
Okay.
You can build them in two different ways. Okay.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have like the little sword hand attachments and like little robot bodies. Okay, and you can build them with cloaks or without. I don't know. Anyways, those guys convert into Arch Warlocks really easy. You just put the extra gas mask rat head that you have. If you build when you buy your warp lightning cannons, you get the choice of regular rat heads or gas mask heads for the thing you're never going to build, which is the flippy
plague claw.
the plague claw. And you just stick that head fits perfectly into their cloak head. You understand what I'm saying? Like it just slots right in there. And then you just give him like a little halberd, and they already have the claws in the box, because one of the builds for those like Ruststalkers or Sicarius or whatever they're called. Yeah, maybe that's, somebody said Ruststalkers and Infiltrators. Yes, maybe that's what it's called.
They're the ones.
Yep, there you go. They have a claw hand. Like one of those guys has a big claw hand, so you can just use the big claw hand and you just give him a little power halberd and done. You can make like 5 Arch Warlocks out of that one box.
That's a good suggestion. I like using the Archmagos kit, because generally they're cheap and knocking around, because you get them in start collecting boxes and people don't really ever need more than one. Sometimes they need 2, but it's about it. But that's also that's a more bulky rat though. They're a bit too big, I think, is the situation for some people. But there are some. For me personally, I would like them to really approach Scryer more. I'd like them to unlock the Scryer element of it more, and the Vermina stuff needs, I don't think it needs a solid update, but an update would be awesome. I think you could do some very, very interesting stuff with the Vermina stuff. And then I'd like them to, if they don't re-envisage some of the parts, I would like them to just do additional things. Large, punchy, bigger verminous stuff. Molder to get some more monsters, like a dual kit monster would be fun. Some rat ogres that, again, doubling up. And then just have some new units. I think more than anything, the fact that it's such an evocative range, but it's a fairly old model range, is quite unique, really, and it is possibly a bit like the Seraphon. I mean, Seraphon got some fairly new stuff at the end of 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but they're still sitting on some pretty old sculpts. So when they get reimagined, I just thought it'd be a fun little thing to see what you were most excited about. And Eshin, I agree with you, would be
it's
phenomenal.
Eshin all the way. Yeah. It has the most opportunity. Like, you look at Scryer and you go, okay, obviously the Acolytes are trash. Like, the current Acolyte thing is nonsense, right? Like, you have to convert those. So, like, whatever. Like, obviously that's hot garbage.
Yeah.
But Storm Fiends are good. Warp Lightning Cannons, still a perfectly good, great sculpt. Like, I don't think there's actually anything wrong with Warp Lightning Cannons. Doom Wheel, still a great sculpt, still holds up. I mean, it's a sub-assembly nightmare. I think I did mine in 12 sub-assemblies. But, it's fine. Like, still, it's still a cool thing once it's all together. I like the look of the Doom Wheel. Looks neat, looks like what it should, right? So, like, when I think about the Jezzails, or, like, I have all metal Jezzails.
Oh, wow.
The Jezzails are kind of like,
the other ones are terrible.
Like, I have both generations of the metal Jezzails, so the 90s ones and the early 2000s metal ones they redid, because they actually redid metal ones in the early 2000s with the thinner, longer guns, as opposed to the old big fat guns. But I have some of each. So, like, the Jezzails could do it. Most of the weapon teams, it's like, if you get them in metal, they're fine. I have a bunch of the plastic warp fire throwers and plastic, like I said, the poison wind mortars. I got a ton of those from the Island of Blood or whatever. Like, it could use an update. There's no doubt. The Bombardier is cool. I have those plastic engineers that came in Island of Blood. I also have like 10 of those. So
so do I.
Because those were $1 a piece. So I was in for like Flynn for those. But, like, I think Eshin has in my mind, if I was going to say what's my priorities, Verminous would be the last one. Eshin would be first, because it needs a complete redesign, like, from the ground up. And everything in it is trash, except the Deceiver.
I mean, Molder's, I think Molder's in a worse place. Do you not think Molder's in a worse place? That's in a tough spot.
I don't, because I think Molder actually has, like, you can build a Flesh Meld Menagerie, and it's a functional... bad but functional army. Okay? Like, because you can have a bunch of giant rats to just gum things up and screen things. You can have rat ogres, and, like, rat ogres, look rat ogres aren't great.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not bad. All right, they're like, here's the thing, play this list sometime, Rob, if you get a chance. It's going to depend on what army you face. If you face a heavy shooting army, it's a problem. But I recently trotted out a nice army with a core block of 8 rat ogres with a master molder behind them to give them the +1 to hit and the bonus to charge or whatever, and the double bravery, and with a hero to follow them around for with a vigor dust injector. Okay.
Yep.
And you give rat ogres +2 to hit and bonuses to charge. And then you Death Frenzy them. And that unit will kill a lot of things. Okay? Because they'll be on, like, command point, you just go all out attack, so you reroll ones. That unit will suddenly be making, like, 4... First of all, half of them have little warp fire throwers, which is fun. You get a splash of little mortal wounds, or not mortal wounds, sorry, you get a splash of little damage around before you get in. And then you hit into people, and every rat ogre is making like 4 attacks on 2s, rerolling 1s, 3s to wound, neg 1 rend, 2 damage each. It'll get there. Get there.
That's good. It's good. I'm a huge fan of the Help It. Huge fan of the Help It. I've talked about it loads. Like, I think it's a good model. I think even the rat ogres have had their day. I think that they're ugly, is what I'm trying to say, and I feel like I know Molder's meant to be ugly, but I think it's unintentionally ugly as opposed to intentionally ugly, and could do with, again, they could imagine the variety of, effectively Molder is rat abominations go crazy. There'll be some great sculpts coming out of that, I think. Like
sure,
which would be super fun to see.
And by the way, Dave Frazier in the chat said, look, and then lies to us saying that I'm lying about rat ogres. I don't love where rat ogres are at. I'm just saying, yes, if you invest in them, they can be an okay unit. I don't disagree with your read, Dave. I don't. My point is, like, Molder would be the next up on my list. They have, like, a monster. You can include Storm Fiends in the list when you're running Molder, right? Because they still have the Molder keyword. So, like, they have, and most of my rat ogres are the plastic rat ogres from Island of Blood, not the crappy metal ones they have for sale now, or Finecast or whatever the heck they are.
Oh, gross.
So the army is like, you know, it can play. Is it good? No, but it can be like a 5. You can have a fun time with a mostly Molder or all Molder army. Okay, it would be my second up on the list. 100%, it would be my second up on the list to be redone. Then Scryer, then Verminous, and Master Clan is all basically fine. So.
Yeah, Master Clan's great. Like it's in a sweet spot. All right, Vince.
Screaming Bells are great. Deceivers are great. Or they're not Deceivers.
And all the Nurgle stuff's decent as well. Like
yeah.
Like really good. In fact, actually, I'm still a big fan of the Plague Claws. I think they look good. I'm like with you on the Warp Lightning Cannon. I think that still looks really decent. And I'm a big fan of the Plague Furnace. I just think it's a really evocative. It just looks super sweet. And
Agreed.
I'd like to, just really good. All right, well, Vince, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Normally, I at the end say, do you want to shout anyone out? Do you want to give a shout out to anyone before we head out for the day?
Oh gosh, give a shout out to my boy Thankful, who's still keeping it real. We didn't talk about him at all, but I love that dude. He doesn't get in enough armies. I think he could still use a little bit of a points drop, but he's for real. I do use him occasionally and love him. Anytime you have multiple warp fire throwers on him and you do get him up to the point where he can burninate the countryside, it is one of the greatest feelings in history to take in a unit of 30 or 40 guys and just erase them. So, it's a great day. No, I mean, check out the show if you're not already watching. So, obviously Warhammer Weekly on my channel and everything like that. But no, thanks, Rob. This has been really fun, man.
Agreed. It's just been nice talking about a passion that we both clearly have, and I can't wait for us to catch up more about how those games go. I've got games all Saturday to play through, which is really fun. But we did get the okay from the council yesterday, which is cool. That we'll be able to go ahead with the Super Series, which is big thumbs up from us. So we're just in the process of reorganizing the dates for the games and when the teams can play again. And all of that malarkey. But that's a fun time, and we're very excited about that. And it also gives us some time to improve some elements of it as well. So I'm going to try. I think the hobby is going to have to sadly come to an end for a bit as I crack on with the Super Series stuff again. But I've enjoyed it. Hopefully get that army finished just before. But that's the thing. Actually, last thing before we go. That's the thing about the Skaven army is you can just add anything. That's the glory. Like you could just
you can keep going forever. Like I said, with 10,060 painted points, there's still stuff I want to add. Like I need to add another Verminlord because I only have 2. I know, and I'm gonna convert him off the Elf Cow. I don't know if you saw that conversion floating around.
Yes,
I
did.
Elf Alarith Cow Mountain.
Amazing.
I totally want to steal that conversion. I think that looks fantastic. I want to make because I don't have a Warbringer, and I want to have one of him, and I think he'll be a great Warbringer. Looks heavily armored. Looks like that. And I want to get a couple more. This is really crazy, but I want to get a couple more Doom Flayers. The little tiny grinder things. I want to be able to run some wacky army of those running through. That kind of stuff. So there's always more to add to it, and it's super fun.
Yeah, agreed. It's my first suggestion for anyone ever wanting to play an army at the minute. Like play Skaven. Like before I even started painting them, I think my suggestion was before play Skaven. Probably either Skaven or Seraphon now. I think they're the best entry boxes and would look cool as a starter box. Just saying it.
I think it's a perfect second army. If I was recommending a true first army to somebody, it wouldn't be Skaven just because it is like the interactions and the complexity of playing it is actually pretty high. Like it's a high skill test army. My first try, if somebody was like, I'm brand new, what should I play? I'd be like Iron Jaws or something like that. Like that would be just like play something that wants to smash. But if somebody was saying, okay, I feel like I've got the game now and I really want an army I can invest in and come to love over time, I would say do the same thing I did. It was my second army and I've loved it for 22 years. Skaven are the perfect second army. That's my answer.
Okay. All right, good. All right, well, listen, I don't need to applaud you, but you are a wonderful human being and a community member. So thank you for being all of those things and being you. Thank you to everyone in the Twitch chat for being here. Big love to you. Patreon, couldn't do it without you. Literally couldn't live. And then thank you to everyone on the podcast. Please stay hydrated and look after yourselves. Join me for the rest of the weekend. We're not far away. We're on 189, 11 days off day 200, which is going to be exciting. We'll have a pie. We'll get cake. And then throw at each other in our own homes, just on our own. Anyway, everyone have a great day and look after yourselves. Goodbye.